I want to talk about secrets, adaptation, and comparison.
Okay.
So one of my favorite episodes I did years ago was with Michael Slepian,
Yeah.
who does a lot of work on secrets. And I read you referenced him in the book,
Yeah.
but one of the people I talk about the most on this show is Tom Gilovich, who I've never
Oh, yeah.
met. I've always wanted to have him on the show, but I always talk about his research on regrets. But he also talks about the enemies of gratitude.
Yep.
So, how do things like adaptation, secrets, and comparison quietly block connection that we don't even realize in our lives?
So Tom Gilovich was my PhD advisor, and he is as amazing a PhD advisor and friend as he is researcher and scientist. Tom has the real genius that really impactful behavioral scientists have, which I've tried to take on as much as I can in my own work, of being able to look out in the world and identify the problems that are really interesting to solve. And Tom has this is more of a talk than anything, where he put together research identifying why is it that we don't feel grateful as often as we could. And in my book, I spend a lot of time talking about why we don't express gratitude when we feel it. But the other barrier to expressing gratitude is that you don't feel it in the first place. And one that he highlights is adaptation, right? So you adapt to almost everything, right? Your mood returns back to baseline. And that's an enemy of gratitude, because when somebody does something really great for you, right? You get a scholarship to go to college, right? They fund your college. Or somebody, an amazing high school teacher. In my life, Craig Awney, high school band teacher, really changed my life in a positive way. I think about him a lot now. Once that positive thing happens, you get used to it. And when you get used to it, that gratitude, then you don't feel as much. You feel it right away when a positive thing
Mm,
happens to you, but after it's over, you can go back to baseline. Adaptation is often a really good thing for us when we're dealing with negative stuff, right? You can get over pain. But when it's a positive thing you'd like to be feeling, adaptation's a problem. The second thing he documents is adversity, that our life has headwinds and tailwinds, he notes, right? There are things, blessings that we have to be grateful for, and then there are things that get in our way, that are problems, adversity that we face. Right? The problem, as any cyclist knows, as Tom has described, because he is a cyclist himself, is when you're riding down the trail and the wind's at your back, you don't really feel it. And that's unfortunately true of many of the blessings in our lives. The benefits that we have, the fact that, for instance, my parents have had the best marriage I think I've ever seen in my life for more than 50 years. I was raised in a very loving home. That can be massive benefits in life. But you don't think about it every day. It's a tailwind. And so the things you have to be grateful for are often tailwinds that you overlook. The things that get in your way, the things you have to be frustrated for, are the things you have to deal with, right? And so we're highly sensitive. Our mind tends to go to the frustrations and the adversity that we have. It's not surprising that every basketball team or sports team on the planet talks about all the adversity they had to overcome on their way to some championship. For sure, you're focused on the things you have to get through. Our adversity is something we have to attend to. But unfortunately, for feeling gratitude, it makes it easy to overlook all the blessings that you had. The fact that your players didn't get injured, right? The fact that you had a good family upbringing, the fact that I had a wonderful PhD advisor like Tom. Those things can be easy to overlook because they're tailwinds. And the last one he notes is comparison. And comparison, that gets to be a problem, by the way. You asked at the beginning of this about book promotion and publishing.
yes.
Lots of other people have wonderful books. You work so hard on yours, right? You think, oh my gosh, this was so much effort. And then everyone else is coming out with books at the same time and they seem to be doing better than you, whatever, right? So you have done this thing that almost no academic does, very few actually do. And instead of feeling great, the experience is, oh, I'm not doing enough, right? It's because you start comparing yourself with other people. And often you make upward comparisons, right? And so that can stifle gratitude. Tom demonstrated this with Olympic medalists. It turns out the silver medalists feel worse than the
Yeah,
bronze medalists because the silver medalists are thinking, I could have won a gold,
that's right.
right? That comparison hurts. The bronze medalists are thinking, I could have won nothing here. And that makes them feel great, right? Our subjective experience is really a lot about construal and interpretation, interpreting how we're experiencing. And unfortunately, the thief of gratitude, as Teddy Roosevelt once said, can sometimes be a comparison.